You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 33, Instead of Time Management. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, it's so great to be with you today. Thank you so much for listening in as you're doing whatever it is you're doing. Maybe it's driving or walking or cleaning. I really appreciate your time. How has your week been? Have you thought about your hormonal strengths on different days of the month and how you can leverage those changes to play to your strengths more? Today, we're going to talk about an alternative to time management, or maybe more like an add-on. We all have the same number of hours in a day. Not enough for most of us, right? So it seems like to quell the busyness and overwhelm, we want to get better at managing our time. Maybe. But I think you should start with managing your energy. If I put you on the spot right now and asked you to define the word energy, what would you say? I say energy is the capacity to do work. So rather than just making a task list or writing to-do items on a calendar, it makes sense to me to start with judiciously managing your capacity to do that work, giving your body and mind the energy they need to create and live your greatest life. You can't implement the healthy changes that you want to make if your energy is all mismatched. There's a lot we can talk about in terms of energy creation. Do you remember my favorite little cell organelle from episode 15? Your tiny little cellular powerhouses are amazing, and doing all the things you can to take care of them will help you generate more energy in your body. You can wake up with energy and have energy to do all the things you want to do all day long if you pamper your mitochondria. They also help you live longer and healthier, avoid disease, and stay mentally sharp. I can't say enough good about them. Go back and listen to episode 15 if you've forgotten some of the great practices and supplements that will help them to thrive. No surprise that our fundamentals of eating, moving, and sleeping can all boost your mitochondrial health, and thus boost your energy. You get energy from the practice of your fundamentals, but how do you manage it such that you can increase your capacity to do work? How can it be more powerful than just managing your time? In his great book, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, Dilbert creator Scott Adams describes the first powerful thing to do, which is to match your mental energy to your tasks. This might seem simple, but it's huge. Step 1 is knowing yourself. You need to know how you typically feel throughout the day. When are you at your best energy-wise? This is great wisdom from Scott Adams, but through no fault of his own. He's a man, so he lives in circadian rhythms, and this is all he needs to think about. Since we just finished 2 weeks talking about our infradian rhythms, I would encourage us girls to consider when we're at our best both throughout the course of the day and throughout the course of the month. Recall what you learned about your hormonal changes throughout the month and pay attention to how you feel, and you'll get the hang of it. Once you know when you're really, quote, on, you can create systems so you do your most important work of the day or of the month during that time. This presupposes that you know what your most important work is. I like the idea of getting rid of your to-do list and having a success list instead. When you're really clear on what ultimate game you are playing, you don't just do stuff for the sake of doing stuff. This is like that old saying about you climbing the ladder and then realizing it's leaning up against the wrong building. Don't do what other people think is important. Do the things that move you closer to your personal target. Take the appropriate steps that will create the result that you want for you. Do you know what your most important work of the day is? It could be for your vocation, but it might be personal, physical, or spiritual. What thing, when you crush it, makes it really hard to have a bad day? What moves you towards your biggest target? Next, do you know when your mental energy is at its best? For the majority of people, it's first thing in the morning, but it could be different for you. First thing in the morning can be a sacred time. Your brain is freshly washed from your lymphatic system, everything is reset, and you're prepared to be creative. If you haven't tried it yet, try not to touch a single device first thing in the morning. Do not be reactive before you've been creative, or you're selling yourself short. It will look different for everyone, but if you can avoid any notifications at all, no phone, no internet, no news, no social media, no email, you'll find that you really can tap into a well of strength and creativity inside of you. When it's just you and your brain at its best, before it starts getting bombarded with information that splinters its power. Okay, back to your time of peak performance. Just scheduling your most important tasks during this time will get you huge gains in your day. If that time is in the morning, you'll have won the day before most people have even gotten started. Lining up what you're doing with what your physiology doing boosts your productivity and also makes doing hard work feel easy and fun. Awesome. What Scott Adams says in his book is, one of the most important tricks for maximizing your productivity involves matching your mental state to the task. For example, when I first wake up, my brain is relaxed and creative. The thought of writing a comic is fun, and it's relatively easy because my brain is in exactly the right mode for the task. I know from experience that trying to be creative in the mid-afternoon is a waste of time. By 2:00 p.m., all I can do is regurgitate ideas I've seen elsewhere. At 6:00 a.m., I'm a creator. By 2:00 p.m., I'm just a copier. End quote. I like the way he puts it, that at certain times of day, his brain is in the right mode for the task. When planning your most important tasks, ask yourself when your brain is naturally in that mode. Then be ruthless about protecting that time of day and using that natural brain mode to let becoming who you want to be become easier and fun. Sounds pretty good to me. How can you ruthlessly protect that optimal brain mode time? How can you not squander it on tasks that don't move you toward where you want to be? How much more productive would you be if you could finish your highest leverage items more quickly and with less struggle? One of the other things Scott Adams says in his book is that goals are for losers. He's a comic strip writer, so is naturally funny, but also makes a good point that focusing on goals makes you always a loser because you haven't attained them yet. We've talked a little bit about this in the past, and I'm sure I'll mention it again in the future, but focusing on the process is where it's at. Scott talks about creating systems, things you do regularly that move you towards your goal. You focus on running the system rather than reaching the goal. Then you win every time you apply your system. One of the things that contributes most to daily satisfaction with life is a sense of progress. If you apply your systems, you gain energy from the progress you made, and you should be celebrating every time you do your desired behavior. Woo! That's like me. This extra energy from running your systems gives you more capacity to do work. One of your systems should be matching your task to your mental state. There's a beauty in being boring. At least I hope so, because I consider myself kind of a boring person. Or maybe a better word is predictable. There's a beauty in being predictable. After you carefully decide what is most important for you to work on and match to your mental energy, you do it consistently. You can gain and maintain high energy by avoiding decision fatigue. You've heard before that Steve Jobs and Barack Obama and some other famous people wore the same thing every day because they wanted to save their brain juice for more important decisions. There's something to that. It works for clothes and for food. You can make your food boring. And for time management and energy management, and probably some other stuff that I haven't thought of too. When you can be more predictable in terms of routines, you eliminate the need for a 6-hour strategy session every morning to carefully pick from every conceivable option of how you could spend your time that day. You wake up already knowing what you'll be doing and that it's the best choice to get you where you're going. These routines can be daily, but can also involve weekly changes and monthly changes depending on what jives with your mental mode. You know how you sometimes hear things in passing that weren't the main point of what somebody was trying to convey, but they tattoo themselves on your brain for some reason? One of those that I heard Brian Johnson mention in passing once was deep work, teamwork, and monkey work. And I love it so much. For some reason, it makes me really happy to think of some of the things I have to do as monkey work. Not sure why. I know they're not monkeys, they're apes, but I love watching orangutans at the zoo. I've spent many hours just sitting there watching them. I think they're hilarious. So maybe it has something to do with that. This is a tangent, but in the book, The Power of Habit, author Jack Hodge talks about the power of self-mastery coming through something he calls your daily drudgery. That there's a power in doing something that you hate every day just to gain mastery over yourself. I do like that idea and the name daily drudgery, but maybe why monkey work stuck out to me so much is because I think it sounds a lot more fun to do monkey work than drudgery. You probably need both, but if you know you're not up for the complex mental calisthenics required of deep work at 3 o'clock p.m., or more accurately, you could do it, but it would just take you a lot longer and be a lot less pleasant, then that's a good time to schedule your monkey work. As you manage your energy as a means to dominate your day, the best way to be productive is to schedule deep work time blocks and to use ultradian rhythms, that's the name for less than a day rhythms, to stretch yourself and work so hard you fatigue your brain for 90 minutes and then take a break for 15 to 20 minutes. This oscillation helps boost your energy, and the bigger the amplitude, the better the energy gains. See if you can make it a game to get your oscillating waves as big as possible. When working, go deep. You know what this means. No phone, no internet browsing, no email, no push notifications, no distractions of any kind for 90 minutes. Then take 15 to 20 minutes of being deeply off. Off also means off. No phone, no internet, no email, no push notifications. Being on technology is not rest time. To get as off as possible would probably be napping or maybe meditating, but it could also be walking, doing push-ups, standing on a whole body vibration plate, dancing, anything offline. Yoga poses, playing the piano, or playing with a pet. My son got this pet bird in December, and I love going down there and holding her on my finger for a few minutes as my break time. She's really cute. We're trying to teach her how to talk, but she hasn't quite learned yet. Lots of good options. The point is that the path to burnout is to flatline. Kinda always on, but kinda always off. This is how most people operate. But you're not normal, so let's not be flatliners. If you never get deep in your work, it will take you forever to finish it. If you never get deep in your recovery, you'll be constantly drained. If you think you're resting by scrolling social media, you're not. That is enervating, not energizing. Obviously, all of this very much depends on what kind of work you do. But if you do this with creative type work from home kind of work, you can finish what takes normal flatliner people 8 hours in 4 hours. Really, from energy management, not time management. We won't get into Parkinson's law today, but if you haven't heard of that, it's a rule that says your work will expand to fill the time allotted for it. So if you give yourself a shorter deadline, you will finish in a shorter amount of time. And your work will be just as good or better if you do it with appropriately managed energy. Awesome. Okay, so how can you apply all of this energy management stuff to your life? What would be most helpful to you? When you think of what appeals to you about time management, what area are you trying to improve? Could you make a gain in that area by employing energy management instead? Could you fit something new and fun into your life if you got a little time back through wise energy management? It's fun to think about the possibilities. My days are each very different, which is fine by me, but also very predictable. Like Mondays, I always do my Monday thing. Wednesdays, I always do my Wednesday thing. I'm certainly not up to like Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week status, but I've been trying to manage my energy better, and I can say that it is pretty great. I love my time management system too and could easily start proselytizing about the full focus planner that I use, but the foundation really is energy management. Just matching up the highest leverage success list item with the best time of day, while it seems simple, makes a big difference. For me, prime deep work time is anytime I can be alone. On most days, alone time for me ends at 3:15 when I have to get my kids from school. Ooh, hang on, rewind. When I get my kids from school. I do genuinely like having them home and have always looked forward to days off from school. But if they're home, I'm much better suited to monkey work. Something else that has really helped me from an energy and mind management perspective was thinking through my biggest frustration of the day and deciding to dominate it early on. I would say this has changed my life, but that sounds a little melodramatic. But it's also true. Doing everything I had to do and wanted to do and getting dinner on the table was always such a big frustration in my life. I always felt way behind and like my two choices were to either give up on what I really, really wanted out of life or give up on trying to take care of my family and feed them dinner. It was the worst, especially because I genuinely like cooking. Then one day I realized I can get dinner all prepped at 10 o'clock a.m. Everything chopped and measured and assembled and the kitchen ready to go for the final step, whatever that might be. I even bought a thing called the prep deck to help me with this process. While it's a totally great invention, I actually don't even use it all that often. Anyhow, game changer for me. For so many years, it was a major energy drain to decide what to cook for dinner, find the recipe, and try to start working on dinner in a messy kitchen when my energy was at its lowest, and all I wanted to do was run away and never come back. Ingredients had to be thrown away because they went bad before I mustered up enough energy to cook what I had planned, and all the time I spent planning menus was wasted when I didn't do what I had planned on, and convenience foods were fallen back on more often than I would have liked. So, while dinner isn't an energetically demanding task in terms of calling up genius-level mental skills, it was a huge energy problem in my life. But not anymore. Now it's easy and fun, and getting it done early gives me a big mental boost early on that can propel me into the rest of my day. It helps in a lot of other ways too, like it's a pre-commitment strategy to healthy dinner, removing the temptation of a less healthy and more convenient option. Because I love intermittent fasting and I don't usually eat breakfast till noon, I oftentimes log my dinner first, which helps me plan my other two meals for nutrient balance before it's even time to eat them. I get that this probably is not the thing that will be most helpful to you, but I'm hoping it will get your wheels turning for you to come up with solutions to your energy management challenges. Is there something energetically draining that you dread that can be made easy and fun with a little timing shift? Is there something you can choose to dominate early on? How can you better utilize your prime energy time to make it hard to have a bad day? Is there monkey work that can be shifted to times when you're not as dialed in? It might even be fun monkey work that you look forward to, which can help you get through your daily drudgery. What about your infradian rhythms? Are there monthly tasks that you can do something similar with, using your changing hormonal strengths to make them easier during some weeks than others? And remember that if you pamper your mitochondria and rock your fundamentals of eating well, sleeping well, and moving well, you'll have more energy to manage, which is almost like getting more time in your day. Don't forget to be intensely on and also go intensely off. Big oscillations. And use your newfound time freedom to do something that lights you up. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you're able to make some shifts in the way you match your tasks to your mental state and manage your energy rather than just your time. Next week, we're going to talk about a cool thing called angiogenesis. Until then, do stuff when it feels easiest and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.